The doctors couldn't explain it, the patients recovered, and every single remedy traced back to one source. A book written thousands of years ago. What if I told you that the most powerful healing foods on the planet were never hidden in a lab? They were growing in a garden described in ancient scripture. Today I'm going to show you all 20 of them, and some of these are going to genuinely shock you. Before we get into this, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now, because this channel is dedicated to the kind of plant and garden knowledge that actually changes your health. Not trends, not fads, real, time-tested, nature-backed truth. Now let's get into it. 1. Olive oil, the liquid that powered civilizations. Let's start with the one that's been under your nose this whole time, olive oil. The Bible mentions it over 140 times, 140 times. That's not a coincidence, that's a pattern. In Exodus, God specifically commanded that pure olive oil be burned in the tabernacle lamps. In Ezekiel 16:13, it's listed as a luxury food blessed by God. In Luke 10:34, the Good Samaritan poured olive oil directly onto wounds to heal them. And here's what blows my mind. Modern medicine has confirmed every single one of those uses. Extra virgin olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal. Oleocanthal works in your body almost identically to ibuprofen. It inhibits the same inflammation enzymes. But unlike ibuprofen, it doesn't destroy your stomach lining. It actually protects it. Olive oil is loaded with polyphenols that reduce LDL oxidation, meaning it literally stops the kind of cholesterol that clogs your arteries from doing damage. The Mediterranean diet, which is built on olive oil, is consistently ranked as the single most heart-protective diet on Earth. And here's something most people don't talk about. Olive oil applied topically, the way biblical healers used it, has been shown to reduce bacterial infection on skin. Wounds, they knew. Thousands of years before microbiology, they knew. 1 tablespoon of cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil every morning. That's all it takes to start feeling the difference. 2. Raw honey, the antibiotic that never expires. Honey found in Egyptian tombs, 3,000 years old, was still edible, still medicinal. Think about that for a second. Nothing else on earth does that. Nothing. The Bible calls Canaan a land flowing with milk and honey in Exodus 3:8. Not once, not twice, but over 20 times throughout Scripture. Proverbs 24:13 says directly, "Eat honey, my son, for it is good." Solomon didn't say eat it because it tastes nice. He said it is good. There's a difference. Here's the science. Raw honey contains hydrogen peroxide, methylglyoxal, and B-defensin 1. 3 separate antimicrobial compounds that work together to destroy bacteria. Studies have shown it kills antibiotic-resistant staph infections, MRSA, better than some. Pharmaceutical antibiotics. Let that land. A natural substance outperforming lab-created drugs. Raw honey also contains prebiotics that feed the good bacteria in your gut. It raises your antioxidant levels. It soothes ulcers in the digestive tract. It reduces seasonal allergy symptoms when consumed locally. It speeds up wound healing when applied topically. But here's the critical thing. It has to be raw. Processed honey from most grocery store shelves has been heated and filtered to the point where most of those benefits are gone. You want raw, unfiltered, ideally local honey. That's the real thing. 3. Garlic, the plague stopper. Garlic is mentioned in Numbers 11:5, where the Israelites in the desert actually complained to Moses that they missed it. They had just been delivered from slavery and they were crying over garlic. That tells you everything about how central it was to their lives and their health. And the Egyptians? Historical records show that Egyptian laborers building the pyramids were given garlic as part of their daily rations, not for flavor, for endurance and disease prevention. When an outbreak struck and the garlic supply was interrupted, the workers went on strike. This is documented history. Now, the active compound in garlic is allicin. Allicin is only released when garlic is crushed or chopped, and you have to let it sit for about 10 minutes after crushing before you cook it, or you destroy the enzyme that activates it. Most people skip that step and lose most of the benefit. Allicin is a proven antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal. Studies show that people who eat raw garlic twice a week have a 44% lower risk of lung cancer. It reduces blood pressure in hypertensive patients as effectively as some medications. It lowers total cholesterol. It boosts white blood cell activity, meaning your immune system literally gets stronger. Ancient Egyptian medical texts from 1550 BC list 22 different medicinal uses for garlic. 22. They didn't know about allicin. They just paid attention. 4. Frankincense, the brain healer. Hidden in plain sight, most people think frankincense is just something mentioned at Christmas in the Nativity story. No. Frankincense is one of the most potent anti-inflammatory compounds ever documented by modern science, and it has been used medicinally for thousands of years across the Middle East, Egypt, and India. In Leviticus, frankincense was a required component of the grain offering. In the Song of Solomon, it's described as fragrant and healing. The Magi didn't just bring it as a gift. In the ancient world, frankincense was sometimes worth more than gold because of its medicinal value. The active compound is boswellic acid. Boswellic acid inhibits a specific enzyme called 5-LOX, which drives chronic inflammation in the body. And chronic inflammation is the root cause of arthritis, Crohn's disease, asthma, and a growing body of evidence links it to Alzheimer's and cancer. Here's what's extraordinary. A 2011 study published in the Journal of Psychopharmacology found that incensol acetate, another compound in frankincense, activates specific ion channels in the brain that relieve anxiety and depression. When ancient priests burned frankincense in the temple, the people breathing it in were literally receiving a neurological calming effect. That wasn't ritual. That was medicine delivered through worship. Frankincense resin can be chewed, made into tea, or taken as a supplement. It's one of the most underrated healing substances in the world. Phyxatan seed. Figs, the tumor shrinker. In 2 Kings 27, when King Hezekiah was sick and dying from a life-threatening infection, possibly anthrax or a severe boil, the prophet Isaiah didn't pray over him and send him to bed. He said, "Take a lump of figs and apply it to the boil." They did, and the king recovered. That story has fascinated scientists for decades. Figs contain a unique enzyme called phycin. Phycin is a proteolytic enzyme, meaning it breaks down protein. When applied topically, it can dissolve dead tissue and fight bacterial infection, which is exactly what you need with a severe boil or abscess. Isaiah's remedy wasn't superstition. It was applied biochemistry. But here's what really gets me. Fig leaf extract has been shown in multiple studies to have anti-tumor properties. Compounds in figs called benzaldehydes have demonstrated the ability to suppress the growth of certain cancer cells in laboratory studies. Research published in Nutrition and Cancer showed fig extract slowing the growth of human colon cancer cells. That research is recent. The fig has been here for thousands of years. Figs are also extraordinarily rich in prebiotic fiber, calcium, actually one of the highest plant-based sources of calcium on Earth, and they contain a compound called chlorogenic acid that helps regulate blood sugar after meals. Diabetics, pay attention to that one. 6. 2. Pomegranate, the heart's best friend. The pomegranate is woven all through Scripture. In Exodus, the hem of the high priest's robe was decorated with pomegranate imagery. In Song of Solomon, it appears repeatedly as a symbol of beauty and abundance. In Deuteronomy 8:8, it's listed as one of the 7 species blessed to grow in the Promised Land. When God described a good land, pomegranate was on the list. Now, what does science say? Pomegranate juice has been studied more rigorously than almost any other fruit in the last 20 years. A clinical trial published in the American Journal of Cardiology found that patients with coronary artery disease who drank pomegranate juice daily for 3 months had significantly improved blood flow to the heart and a measurable reduction in arterial plaque. Pomegranate contains punicalagins, antioxidants so powerful that pomegranate juice has been measured to have 3 times the antioxidant activity of red wine and green tea. 3 times. The Seeds are rich in punicic acid, a type of omega-5 fatty acid that is being studied for its ability to fight breast cancer cells. It also lowers inflammatory markers like CRP, reduces blood pressure, fights prostate cancer progression, and recent research is showing promising effects on memory and cognitive decline. The whole fruit is the medicine, seeds, juice, and the bitter white membrane most people throw away. That membrane? Rich in compounds that fight bacterial infection in the mouth and digestive tract. 7. Hyssop, the forgotten purifier. Hyssop is one of the most mentioned plants in the Bible that almost no one talks about today. In Psalm 51:7, David cries out, "Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean." In Exodus 12, hyssop was used to apply the blood of the Passover lamb to the doorposts. In John 19:29, a sponge soaked in sour wine was held up to Jesus on a branch of hyssop at the crucifixion. Every time hyssop appears in Scripture, it is tied to cleansing, purification, or healing. And now we know why. Hyssop contains carvacrol and thymol, the same antimicrobial compounds found in oregano oil, which is one of the most powerful natural antibiotics known to science. These compounds destroy the cell walls of bacteria and fungi. Thymol is so effective that it's a primary ingredient in Listerine mouthwash. The ancient Hebrews were brushing their spiritual teeth with the real thing. Studies have shown hyssop extract to be effective against herpes simplex virus in laboratory testing. Its volatile oils have strong expectorant properties, meaning it breaks up mucus and clears the respiratory tract. In European herbal medicine, hyssop tea has been used for centuries for bronchitis, coughs, and chest congestion. Hyssop also promotes sweating, which was a traditional way to break fevers. Ancient medicine understood this. Modern herbalists still rely on it. 8. Dates, the energy fruit of the desert. Date palms are described in Scripture as symbols of righteousness and victory. The righteous person is compared to a palm tree in Psalm 92:12. Palm branches were waved during Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem. In ancient Israel, date palms were so important economically and nutritionally that the image of a palm tree appeared on ancient Jewish coins. And for good reason. Dates are one of the most nutritionally dense fruits on the planet. A single date contains natural sugars, fructose, glucose, and sucrose, in a ratio that provides sustained energy without the blood sugar crash you get from refined sugar. Bedouin tribes in the Arabian desert survived for weeks on nothing but dates and water. That is not exaggeration. That is documented survival. Now here's where it gets interesting for your health. Dates contain a flavonoid called luteolin, a carotenoid called beta-carotene, and zeaxanthin, which is specifically associated with eye health and protection against macular degeneration. Research published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry showed that regular date consumption measurably reduced triglyceride levels and oxidative stress markers in the blood. A study in the Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology found that women who ate 6 dates per day during the last 4 weeks of pregnancy had significantly better labor outcomes. More dilated, less need for induction, shorter first stage of labor. Ancient midwives knew about dates. Now we have the clinical trials to back them up. 9. Almonds, the resurrection. Nut Aaron's rod that budded, in Numbers 17, bloomed with almond blossoms. That was the miraculous sign God chose to confirm the priesthood. Of all the flowers in all of creation, God chose the almond. The menorah in the tabernacle was designed with almond blossoms as its decorative motif. These were not random choices. Almonds are one of the most complete single foods you can eat. They contain vitamin E. 1 ounce of almonds gives you 37% of your daily vitamin. E requirement. Vitamin E is a fat-soluble antioxidant that protects your cell membranes from oxidative damage. It's particularly important for skin, immune function, and eye health. But here's what most people don't know. Almonds are the only nut that is alkalizing in the body. Every other nut is acid-forming. In a world where most people eat highly acidic diets, almonds actively work to restore pH balance. A landmark study from the New England Journal of Medicine tracking over 76,000 women found that those who ate nuts 5 or more times per week had a 35% lower risk of heart attack than those who rarely ate nuts. Almonds were the most commonly consumed nut in the study. The magnesium in almonds also helps regulate blood pressure and insulin sensitivity. For people with prediabetes or metabolic syndrome, almonds are one of the best daily additions you can make to your diet. 10. Grapes and wine, the medicine of the vine. Jesus compared himself to a vine in John 15. Wine was the central element of the Last Supper. Paul instructed Timothy in 1 Timothy 5:23 to stop drinking only water and use a little wine for his stomach ailments. This wasn't an endorsement of excess. It was a prescription for gut health. The skin of red grapes contains a compound called resveratrol. Resveratrol activates a class of proteins called sirtuins, sometimes called longevity genes. These proteins regulate cellular aging, inflammation, and even DNA repair. Resveratrol is shown in animal studies to extend lifespan, and in human studies it's being actively researched for Alzheimer's prevention, cardiovascular protection, and cancer resistance. Grape seeds are equally impressive. Grapeseed extract contains oligomeric proanthocyanidins, OPCs, which are among the most potent antioxidants identified in nature. They're 20 times more powerful than vitamin C and 50 times more powerful than vitamin E in certain antioxidant tests. Fresh grapes also contain quercetin, a natural antihistamine and anti-inflammatory. Eating grapes regularly has been associated with lower blood pressure, better kidney function, and reduced inflammation markers. The vine that Jesus described himself as, it wasn't just poetry. The fruit of that vine is a pharmacy. 11. Lentils, the soup that built a nation. In Genesis 25, Esau sold his entire birthright, his inheritance, his future, his identity as the firstborn, for a bowl of red lentil stew. People laugh at Esau for that, but what if he knew exactly what he was doing? What if that bowl of lentils represented something his body desperately needed after coming in from the field, exhausted and starving? Because here's what lentils do. They are one of the most protein-dense plant foods on Earth, about 18 grams of protein per cooked cup. They are rich in folate, which is essential for DNA synthesis and repair. They contain iron in a highly bioavailable form. They are loaded with soluble fiber that feeds gut bacteria, lowers cholesterol, and stabilizes blood sugar like almost no other food can. A study published in the Archives of Internal Medicine followed over 9,000 people and found that those who ate legumes like lentils 4 or more times per week had a 22% lower risk of coronary heart disease. 22% lower, just from eating lentils 4 times a week. Lentils also contain polyphenols that show anti-inflammatory and antioxidant activity. They're low on the glycemic index, meaning they digest slowly and keep you full for hours. They're one of the cheapest foods at any grocery store. Esau had good taste. 12. Barley, the forgotten grain. Barley is one of the oldest cultivated grains on earth, and it's mentioned throughout Scripture. In John 6:9, the miracle of the feeding of 5,000 was done with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. Ruth gleaned barley from Boaz's fields in what is one of the most beautiful stories of provision and redemption in the Bible. It was the bread of common people, of workers, of the faithful. And nutritionally, barley is superior to almost every other grain we eat today. The reason is a specific type of soluble fiber called beta-glucan. Beta-glucan is the same compound found in oats, but barley has significantly higher concentrations. Beta-glucan forms a gel in your digestive tract that slows glucose absorption, reduces cholesterol reabsorption, and feeds beneficial bacteria in your colon. The FDA has approved a health claim specifically for barley and its ability to reduce the risk of heart disease. That doesn't happen often. The FDA doesn't give that kind of validation easily. Studies show barley reduces LDL cholesterol by up to 15%, improves blood sugar control in type 2 diabetics, and significantly reduces hunger hormones, meaning you eat less naturally. Barley also contains lignans, plant compounds that have been associated with reduced risk of hormone-related cancers. Ruth was gleaning from fields that were more like a medicine cabinet than a farm. 13. Coriander. The manna comparison in Numbers 11:7, when the Israelites described manna, the miraculous food God sent from heaven, they said it looked like coriander seed. Of all the seeds in the ancient world, God chose to create heavenly food that looked like coriander. Think about that for a moment. Coriander, the seed of the cilantro plant, has been found in ancient Egyptian tombs. It was among the oldest medicinal plants used in human history, with Sanskrit texts, Egyptian papyri, and Greek writings all documenting its uses. Here's what modern research has found. Coriander seeds contain a compound called linalool that has clinically demonstrated anti-anxiety properties comparable to diazepam, that's Valium, in animal studies, but without the addictive properties. A study in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology showed coriander seed extract significantly reducing anxiety behaviors. Coriander is also a powerful digestive remedy. It reduces bloating, gas, and spasms in the digestive tract. It has been shown to lower blood sugar by stimulating insulin secretion. Its essential oil has strong antibacterial properties effective against foodborne pathogens like Salmonella. And here's the one that will blow people's minds. Coriander is one of the few known foods that actively chelates heavy metals from the body. It binds to mercury, lead, and aluminum in the tissues and helps escort them out. In a world full of environmental toxins, that property is extraordinary. 14. Myrrh, the wound healer of kings. Myrrh was brought as a gift to Jesus at his birth and was used to prepare his body at burial. In Esther 2:12, women preparing to meet the king went through 6 months of purification with myrrh oil. In Song of Solomon, myrrh is mentioned over a dozen times as something fragrant and precious. This was not decoration. This was medicine. Myrrh, the resin from the Commiphora tree, contains sesquiterpenes that directly interact with the limbic system of the brain, affecting emotions and hormones. That's not mysticism. That's pharmacology. The ancient world used myrrh to treat grief, depression, and anxiety, and they were using the right compound for the right problem. The primary active compounds are terpenoids and sterols that have proven anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and pain-relieving properties. Studies from the University of Florence showed myrrh extract having significant activity against 3 types of cancer cells in lab testing. Myrrh has been used for thousands of years and now validated by research to treat gum disease, mouth sores, and throat infections. Modern mouthwashes and toothpastes still use myrrh for exactly this reason. It also reduces blood cholesterol and triglycerides, supports thyroid function, and promotes wound healing when applied topically. Kings and prophets surrounded themselves with myrrh not just for its scent, but because they knew it kept them well. 15. Cumin, the spice that beats chemotherapy side effects. In Matthew 23:23, Jesus actually mentions cumin specifically, condemning the Pharisees for meticulously tithing cumin and mint while ignoring justice and mercy. That they were tithing their spice gardens tells you how valuable cumin was in the ancient economy. You didn't tithe something worthless. Isaiah 28:25-27 describes a farmer carefully scattering cumin and threshing it with a rod, specific agricultural instruction for a specific crop. Cumin was cultivated, valued, and used medicinally throughout the ancient Near East. Here's what's remarkable. Research published in Nutrition and Cancer found that cumin dramatically inhibited the development of stomach and liver tumors in experimental models. The compound responsible is thymoquinone, found in black cumin especially, which has been called by some researchers the most promising natural anti-cancer compound under development. Black cumin seed oil, Nigella sativa, which is closely related to the cumin family, has over 1,000 published studies documenting its benefits. It has been shown to improve asthma symptoms, reduce blood pressure, lower blood sugar, fight H. pylori bacteria in the gut, boost immune function, and have anti-cancer activity across multiple tumor types. There is an ancient hadith that says black seed heals everything except death. Science is spending billions trying to figure out why that statement keeps proving to be accurate. 16. Mint, the herb of tithes and temples. Mint is the other herb Jesus mentioned alongside cumin in Matthew 23. And like cumin, the Pharisees were carefully tithing it. Mint was not a minor herb. It was so valuable it was counted as income and given to the temple. The primary compound in mint is menthol, but the healing goes far deeper than what most people associate with fresh breath. Peppermint oil has one of the strongest evidence bases of any herbal remedy in modern gastroenterology. Multiple randomized controlled trials, the gold standard of research, have shown that enteric-coated peppermint oil capsules reduce the symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome as effectively as antispasmodic pharmaceutical drugs with fewer side effects. Menthol activates cold receptors and inhibits pain receptors simultaneously, which is why mint relieves headaches when applied to the temples. Studies confirm what people have known instinctively for millennia. Spearmint tea has been shown in clinical trials to reduce testosterone and androgen levels, making it a potential natural treatment for polycystic ovarian syndrome. 2 cups of spearmint tea per day showed significant hormonal changes in just 30 days. Mint also improves alertness and memory. Research from the University of Cincinnati showed that people who sniffed peppermint before cognitive tests performed measurably better. They smelled sharper. Ancient scholars studying scripture surrounded by mint may have been doing more than keeping the room smelling nice. 17. Mustard seed, the smallest giant. In Matthew 13:31-32, Jesus compared the kingdom of heaven to a mustard seed, the smallest of seeds that grows into the greatest of plants, large enough for birds to nest in its branches. He used this plant specifically because his audience knew it. They grew mustard. They ate mustard. They used mustard medically. And the compound that makes mustard seeds so powerful is sinigrin, which breaks down into allyl isothiocyanate when the seed is crushed or chewed. This compound is part of a class called glucosinolates, which are found in the Brassica family of plants. These are among the most intensively studied anti-cancer compounds in nutritional science. Population studies consistently show that people who eat brassica vegetables, which include mustard, have significantly lower rates of colon, lung, and prostate cancer. The glucosinolates activate a phase 2 detoxification enzyme system in the liver that literally neutralizes carcinogens before they can damage DNA. Mustard poultices, crushed mustard seeds applied to the chest, were used for millennia to treat respiratory infections. The allyl isothiocyanate penetrates the skin, increases circulation, breaks up congestion, and delivers antimicrobial compounds directly to inflamed tissue. Pre-modern doctors used this regularly for pneumonia and bronchitis, the smallest seed, one of the largest healing reputations in nature. 18. Spikenard, the brain and hormone. Healer Mary of Bethany poured an entire jar of pure spikenard, an expensive fragrant ointment, on Jesus' feet in John 12:3. Judas objected that it was worth 300 denarii, which was almost a year's wages. Mary used a year's salary worth of healing oil in a single act of worship. That tells you the value ancient society placed on this plant. Spikenard comes from Nardostachys jatamansi, a plant native to the Himalayan region that was traded along ancient spice routes all the way to Israel and Rome. It was so rare and expensive that only the elite could access it, which is what made Mary's act so remarkable. The active compounds in spikenard, jatamansone and nardostachone, have been studied for their effects on the nervous system. Research published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology showed spikenard extract demonstrating significant anti-anxiety effects, sedative properties, and even anticonvulsant activity. More recent research has shown spikenard to have potent antifungal properties, strong activity against inflammation, and meaningful antioxidant capacity. Some researchers are investigating its ability to lower blood pressure through a calcium channel blocking mechanism. In Ayurvedic and traditional Chinese medicine, spikenard has been used for depression, insomnia, and nervous system exhaustion for thousands of years. Modern neuroscience is beginning to validate why. 19. Bitter herbs, the Passover prescription. In Exodus 12:8, God specifically commanded the Israelites to eat the Passover lamb with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. This wasn't about flavor, this was about medicine. The Exodus from Egypt was not just a spiritual event, it was a massive physical migration through harsh desert terrain. And God prescribed bitter herbs before it happened. Bitter herbs referenced in the ancient context include things like dandelion, chicory, watercress, endive, and wild lettuce. These are some of the most liver-supportive plants in herbal medicine. The bitterness comes from compounds called iridoids and sesquiterpene lactones, which stimulate bile production in the gallbladder and liver enzyme activity. Why does that matter? Because your liver is the primary organ of detoxification. When your liver is sluggish, which most people's are due to processed food, alcohol, and environmental toxins, everything suffers, energy drops, hormones become unbalanced, the immune system weakens, skin breaks out, bitter herbs literally wake the liver up. Dandelion root, which is one of the most accessible bitter herbs available today, has shown in studies to be hepatoprotective, meaning it protects liver cells from damage. It also acts as a natural diuretic, reduces inflammation, and contains compounds with promising anti-cancer activity. God prescribed bitter herbs the night before the most grueling physical journey in biblical history. He was preparing their livers for what was coming. That is extraordinary foresight, or as believers would say, perfect wisdom. 20. Moringa, the miracle tree hidden in Scripture. And here it is. Number 20, the one that is going to change the most minds. Moringa oleifera is not mentioned by its modern name in Scripture, but the tree native to the regions where most biblical events took place, the Sinai, ancient Palestine, Egypt, was well known in those cultures as a plant of extraordinary healing power. Ancient Egyptian texts document its use for skin disease, infection, and as a water purifier. Some biblical botanists believe references to healing trees and the tree of life imagery throughout Scripture align closely with moringa's characteristics. Now, here's why this matters for you specifically. Moringa leaves contain 7 times the vitamin C of oranges, 4 times the calcium of milk, 4 times the vitamin A of carrots, 2 times the protein of yogurt, 3 times the potassium of bananas. Per gram of dried leaf, moringa has more nutrients than almost any single food on Earth. But what really sets moringa apart is a group of compounds called isothiocyanates, specifically moringin and moringinine. These compounds have demonstrated in multiple independent studies the ability to suppress NF-κB, which is a master regulator of inflammation in the human body. Suppressing NF-κB has implications for arthritis, inflammatory bowel disease, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. A study in the journal Phytochemistry showed moringa extract reducing blood glucose in diabetic subjects by up to 28%, comparable to some pharmaceutical interventions. A study in food and chemical toxicology showed moringa leaf extract protecting the liver from damage caused by toxic medications. In parts of Africa where moringa grows freely, it has been called the tree that never lies. NGOs have used moringa leaf powder to treat malnutrition in children with documented, measurable success. We are just now discovering what ancient civilizations living in its shade already knew. Every single leaf of that tree is a pharmacy. 20 plants, 20 foods, all of them documented in ancient scripture, all of them validated by modern science, and all of them available to you. Not in a prescription bottle, not behind a pharmacy counter. In the earth, in a garden, just like God originally intended. This is why I do this channel, because somewhere between ancient wisdom and modern science, there is a truth that most people are never told. And that truth is that your body was designed to heal, and the earth was designed to help it. If this video opened your eyes even a little, share it with someone who needs it. Drop in the comments which one of these surprised you the most. I genuinely want to know. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because we've got a lot more of this coming and you don't want to miss it. Take care of your body. It's the only garden you were given stewardship over that truly matters.